Robin Leach.
Yes.
Today?
Yes, yeah, I saw that. Yeah, he died either as we're recording this today or last night. Yeah,
that's amazing. You and I think I have met him through our experience with the Venetian. Did you ever meet him?
No, I never actually met him. I remember there was kind of a scandal about what happened at Delmonico's, I think.
Yes.
With, I don't know, somebody taking their clothes off or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah. I remember that.
I thought it was his guest.
Yeah.
That disrobed.
Yes.
And he was a drinker.
Yes.
And a partier, and he was everything that he put out there. I can't really say it was even a persona. That was him. I mean, I met him twice. And
he was big guy. I mean, he was
big guy.
Fat.
Yeah. In the end, the last time I saw him, he was large.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rotund.
Yeah.
But he was exactly what he put on the television. I mean, it was the overdone British accent. He was British, of course, but
he overdid it.
Yeah. I mean, he was always on. And he was always Robin Leach, but that was his bread and butter.
Yeah.
But yeah, he imbibed. I mean, he was quite a drinker, very much an eater.
Yeah.
And he became like there's in Arizona. There's this journalist. His name is E.J. Montini. And he covers everything that is Arizona, food and entertainment and everything else. He kind of became that for Vegas. He was the unofficial sort of reviewer of everything that it was Vegas, and people invited him to all the new restaurants. And last time I saw him was, saw of him was Mario Batali at Carnavino, and now closed. But his word for a while was kind of law. I mean, if he gave you the nod, that you were okay in Vegas for a while. A lot of people found him to be just silly, but he really did have quite a reputation. And this was way after the Lifestyles, the Rich and Famous show.
Yeah.
I mean, he plopped down here and became a sort of an icon. But passed away. That's amazing. Did they say how old he was?
76.
76.
Yeah, and apparently he'd had a stroke last November. Okay. He'd been in the hospital since then. So I really would, probably the size of the hospital bill, maybe that's what finally did him in.
Oh, yes.
And for a guy who indulged in all the 5-star, restaurants and everything, to be in hospital, that, slop for...
Yeah.
Even if you have a high grade one, it's going to be slop.
Right. Yeah, and he by no means was a vegetarian.
No,
he enjoyed everything. But
and it's interesting, Jamie. There was a report came out yesterday. It was a health study, and it showed that now they're saying that no amount of drinking. Usually, they used to say people that drank had 1 to 2 drinks, which is defined by like 3.4 ounces of wine a day. Lived longer. Now they're saying that they attribute alcohol to, the 10% of deaths particularly with men, between the ages of 15, I think it is, and 48. Which neither one of us are in that bracket. So.
Right.
So now they were saying that no amount of alcohol is considered safe.
Safe.
So I thought, well, wait a minute. And there was somebody else that criticized that. Again, you have to sometimes look beyond the numbers. Sure. Is that there's a social aspect to drinking. And if you keep it in check and you make sure you don't do it, you overindulge in it, that the social aspect of it and having a good time is in itself very healthful.
I would say so, yes, without question. And I was just speaking to someone on this subject, and the wine industry has taken some hits of late. I mean, it was kind of part of the canons of drinking that a glass of red wine every night or every other night was good for you. Now, as you said, they have determined that there is no alcohol that is good for you in any amount. Yeah. And people, the article and the person that was speaking of, we were speaking of an article that said wine is going to be safe because the millennials still think it's cool. So as far as the marketing and sales of it, we're fine. No, I never thought of it that way. You're absolutely right. The laughing and the stress relief, and just the socialization that comes along with it, regardless of any effects of the alcohol itself, I think is a very healthful thing.
Yeah.
I'm not part of that culture. I don't drink at all. But
you will go to parties where people are drinking like that, and you just have something that's non-alcoholic.
Exactly. Yeah, I have no problem with that. I don't mind being that guy. I've been the designated driver my whole life. Now, I mean, I have a standing rule. It sounds kind of harsh. Goes for you too, John.
Yeah.
That I'll offer to take you home one time. I'll take you across the country if you want, but you got one time. That's it. And I bail. I'm not gonna hang around for a bunch of drunks.
Yeah.
But no, I think that alcohol has its place. We've talked, ad infinitum about the whole marijuana thing. I'm thrilled to see that it's finally showing, some profits the taxation is being given to our educational system. I don't have kids, but great. They've kept their word. I just cannot put marijuana and alcohol in the same category. But I would have to admit that there is a sociability of marijuana as well that could be considered healthy. Alcohol being a depressant is very strange, and most alcohol is also a diuretic, so it seems like a very unhealthy situation.
Yeah.
But ultimately, if we, the American public, the global community, if we had any moderation, I think alcohol, marijuana, and all these other vices that we seem to be, approving would be good. We don't have any moderation.
Yeah, another thing that I think is wrong in American culture is our approach to food. Now, the American diet is shitty as it is, but this whole idea of somehow eat as fast as you can or eat as much as you can in a short period of time. That's why they have those contests, and it's always along two parameters, right? How much and in a certain amount of time, because you just can't sit there all night and eat it. You only have 35 minutes to eat this 6-pound hamburger, So there's that. If you watch French movies, I like to watch foreign movies very often just to see if they're realistic, how they depict everyday life. How do people normally live? And almost every French movie I've ever seen, there's a dinner scene, and people will sit there and they'll go through the bottle of wine or two, and the dinner is stretched out over several hours. There's conversation. So, I'm not saying we don't do that here, but we only do it on special occasions. Mm-hmm. Technically, Thanksgiving, Christmas, that sort of thing. That's when people sit down, they have a long dinner, whatever, and conversation. Mm-hmm. But everything seems to be, now we were talking last week about, what was it, at the Cosmo, the new dining experience where it's grab your tray and sit down so you can get the hell out of there in a hurry.
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree. I think that having traveled Italy, for example, I think it boils down to something that is probably that it's not quantifiable. Is that our eating experience? Now, there's going to be a lot of detractors on this statement, but that's okay. I think the Western diet, the American dining experience there is no longer any specialness to it. There's no camaraderie. There's no community to it. It's eating for eating's sake. It's eating quickly and getting it done. And for those foodies, the very rare foodie that is enjoying it, they're really not. They're not slowing down to eat it. And our fast food industry, of course, is a monument to this problem. They make the chairs uncomfortable. They make it a little bit, cooler because you're not comfortable. They make the music not so comfortable. They want you to eat that hamburger and get the hell out.
Get the hell out so there's somebody else in there.
Exactly. So I think we've lost the specialness to the dining experience, and which is exactly what we're talking about today. I got some great questions, and they're actually questions from me. Regarding what is missing about Las Vegas, what is missing from it, within it, so it's perfect. Great segue, John.
There it is.
There it is.
Had it all planned.
That's right. Well, a big hello to our sponsor this month, Mrs. Events, or MRS Events. You can reach them at mrs-events.com for all of your event needs, for all of your model and talent needs, for anything as far as party planning and event planning in Las Vegas and the southwestern area. Mrs. Events, mrs-events.com. But John, the big opening question, and again, perfect segue. What do you miss about the Vegas that we knew? Now, everybody loves to, and I say it too, I have never experienced the 1950s Vegas like my parents did.
Yeah.
And where you didn't get on a plane without being dressed up. You didn't get off the plane without, looking good. And you didn't come to Vegas without, looking really good, And you could go into a lounge and see the Rat Pack for free. Don Rickles for free.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about that. We haven't experienced that. Not really. You might have gotten a little closer than I have.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I did get to see Don Rickles at a dinner show, no less.
Yeah.
Years ago, but not here in Las Vegas. I was actually in Reno.
Okay.
But nevertheless, I did get to experience that. I was here in the 80s, once or twice, and then not again until the late 90s.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, to me, the Strip really lost something when Steve Wynn shut down the Desert Inn. That was kind of the last of the old style Vegas hotels. It wasn't so. It was very elegant and quiet on the inside when you went in there.
Yeah.
From the outside, I mean, again, compared to what was going up around it, where you had Treasure Island and you had the Venetian was just opening, where everything had this big theme. The Desert Inn was just the Desert Inn.
It was stylish. It was simplistic. There was no camp to it. And there's certainly they didn't kowtow to trends. I don't think trendy was a thing.
No, and yeah, when you went in there, you hardly saw anybody there was under 60.
That's right. Well, the people that had the money.
Yeah, exactly.
It was tough to come here.
Yeah.
But even before then, it was actually very difficult to travel here. Flights were brand new. It was the desert. People didn't know how to do. Old Bugsy, he rolled the dice on this one. So what do you miss about the Vegas we knew about? Let's call it 15 years ago. As we arrived and began our tenure at the Venetian and met each other, we were, I think, still enjoying the town for what it was. What do you miss about it?
Yeah, because the town was in transition, and I think what happened now over the course of the time since we worked together was the full transitioning into the corporate ownership, where everything, the parking is, you got charged for everything. There used to be still, when we were there, although it was dying out, there were still bargains to be had, more or less. There were a few things that they gave away, that you could come here and say, wow, this is, when you come to Las Vegas, you have to have a buffet. It's part of the experience. It's cheap. At that time, it was fairly cheap. And I think the one at the Rio was the most expensive one, the seafood buffet.
And it was in the 20s.
It was in the 20s.
Yeah.
So now you're paying twice that. And it's not any better, really.
No.
It might be bigger, but I can't imagine even being better. I waited an hour for that buffet, and the little free shows that they had, things like that. So you came to Las Vegas. These are the things that you did.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of.
I have a. I'll try to keep it short-winded. I have a long-winded answer to this one, but I think there's what's missing. And has been it's missing and has been added. It's sort of a dichotomy for me. Is I'm a fan of the Disney resorts. I love amusement parks. I'll be going this year, and I'll be going again, I'm sure. But unfortunately, what has happened to Disney happened many, many years ago, and it's unavoidable for Disney. But I thought it was avoidable for Vegas. Is that you sort of, for Disney, you get there, and it's trudge, wait in line, go on something that's okay, trudge. Yeah. And Vegas didn't used to be like that. Vegas, there was this sort of titular excitement when you first got here for adults. I never speak of kids for this town.
Yeah.
And there was always something new that you could see or feel. And when you got here, the lights and the sights and the sounds and the smells, they invited you not to partake of vice. They invited you to, sort of involve yourself in the wonder that is Vegas. Like, how in the world has this little town survived but it survived well, and it's still surviving based on what it's doing. But you're absolutely right. There are some things that should not have gone that did, and that have come in that aren't great. Which sort of brings me to the second question. We'll sort of combine these. What do you think has sort of this is a terrible word to use, but infected Vegas?
Yeah.
That has contributed to its sort of tarnishment, but where you could pinpoint and say, oh, I really wish that would not have come here. But Vegas, welcomed it because that was the way she survived. What do you think that is?
Yeah, I think that is a good choice of words, infected, because I was thinking it's almost like somebody who, they get on the scale and they realize, over the last year I gained a couple pounds. That's not a good trend, but a couple pounds isn't a big deal. But then if you continue that trend and you're gaining 2-3 pounds every year, after 10 years, it's going to be a problem, right? You've gained 30-40 pounds, and now all of a sudden you have all kinds of problems.
You're a tub.
And I kind of think it was the same thing that we were seeing there as things became, as Vegas evolved or changed. When we started to see, even with the Venetian, wow, they have really nice rooms. That was not traditional Las Vegas. The same thing, of course, the whole aspect of let's appeal to the families and the kids. And, there's still kind of a residue of that in the sense just of, it was a bad idea. But it just seemed to have spawned other bad ideas.
Now, do you think, that brings up an excellent point, but it brings up something that I was going to ask you as well. Do you think that back when, as you spoke of, Steve Wynn, Adelson, Krikorian at the time, started to bring in that corporate atmosphere. And do you think when we started hearing about the nice rooms, with the air quotes, that was the beginning of the downfall of gambling?
Yeah, because that was one of the things I thought, and one of the things we had to deal with. This struggle because, and again, I really can't even blame the guests for this, even though they shit in our ear all the time about it. They made the room really nice. We had the split level. It was an all-suite hotel. If you called it a room, they slapped you on the wrist.
Yes, I remember.
Yeah, so they made it inviting to stay in the room. But besides that, they didn't offer you anything. Right? Oh, they turn on television. Which channel is HBO? We don't have it. What do you mean you don't have it? Yeah, you want to watch HBO, go to Motel 6 because they have it, but we don't. Because the idea is there's still that vibe of they want you out of your room spending money. But nevertheless, you just made the room really nice and expensive by comparison. I mean, sure, compared to other cities, back then I remember our room rate was like $129 a night or something like that. Yeah. You could get it for $79, but $129 was about. But hey, for Las Vegas, that was kind of expensive because I had stayed just a few years before then. Stardust, $35. Yeah, and it was a basic room, but there were no cockroaches in it or anything. Hey, believe me, I've stayed in a lot worse.
Yeah.
So.
What do you think? See if you can rack your brain here, and all these years that we've been here. We've seen new things come in. We've seen Vegas welcomes fads as they come and kicks them out. Here's the problem, I think, is that we're not kicking them out anymore. It seems like we're not saying, okay, families didn't work. Pass.
And if one thing works, and everybody's got to follow suit, just like the dominoes that are lined up and fall over. And a good example of that I think is Cirque du Soleil. It's a great show. Then everybody got rid of the Vegas shows. Everybody thinks of Showgirls, Las Vegas, and topless shows like the Folies Bergère, Jubilee, where they had the early show, the 7:30 show was covered. The 10:30 show was topless.
Yeah,
it was. They had kitsy shows. I mean, kind of cheesy, some of them. Yeah. But that was Las Vegas. That spoke of Las Vegas. Yeah. And all of a sudden, those are all gone, and everybody's got a different flavor of Cirque du Soleil, another fucking acrobats show.
Yeah,
right? And they're all the same. Come on, let's face it. They all have their own individual characteristics. But when they tried to make it, and again, with the art museums, let's go with it. No. You don't understand this. This is not, Las Vegas is kind of the mecca of the slob culture in that regard. The high-end stuff. Same thing, Ricky Jay had one time said that he wouldn't perform here in Las Vegas. And he did, and he never has.
He never has.
Because one of the things was, great, they have perfect venues for it. In the early, back in 2000, it really was the mecca of magic.
Yeah.
There were some great sleight of hand guys working here. He wouldn't come here because he didn't want to compete with, drunks trying to pick up women is what he said when I'm trying to do a show.
Yeah.
And people are there. Oh yeah, they're there to see the show, but they're there to pick up women.
Yeah.
And that's fine, but so have a second-rate guy. He doesn't want to perform under those circumstances.
Yeah, it's interesting who has declined to come. I mean, now we have all these residencies, and Gwen Stefani's was a disaster. Which was
that right?
Oh yeah,
I didn't.
It was a very talented, and her stint with No Doubt, of course, was huge.
Yeah.
But she thought this was going to be just a blowout. Couldn't keep a seat in the house, and now they couldn't sell the tickets.
Wow.
Yeah.
Aerosmith's tickets went on sale today for their residency starting in next year.
Right. And Bruno Mars, his was successful, but I think he has such a giant, following. One would think Gwen Stefani did.
I would have thought, because Britney Spears did really well here.
I'm sure the Stefani camp was extremely surprised and kind of hurt. That's a tough thing to to deal with. Of course, Lady Gaga is coming in. I don't know about her power still. But see, these are the things though that have come into Vegas that I wonder, is there any old Vegas left? Like you said, another question I was going to ask you is, do you think that the topless performance, the Folies Bergère, Jubilee, Crazy Girls, those are the classics. Do you think they got Me Too'd? I mean, do you think, not necessarily initially that's why they left, but do you think that the reason they're not coming back is because of that atmosphere? Do you think it's because the millennial and sub-millennial and slightly above millennial that they don't want to see this anymore?
Well, again, I think it's that corporate mentality of what's profitable, and I need to improve the profit line for the next quarter. Yeah. So hey, they're doing over at the Bellagio, we need a water show. And then somebody else says, hey, they've got that, and there's just no variety.
Yeah.
That's gone. And yeah, it is a lot of the people that would go to the Folies Bergère, we sold the tickets. A lot of those people are dead, right? Because they were like, 65, 70, 15, 20 years ago.
Right.
So either they're too old to come, but yeah, I mean, things change. And I know that Las Vegas in the past has been very good about changing along with it. Yeah. So that it didn't go the way of Toys R Us or something like that, in terms of being that adult Disneyland or adult toy store. But yes, lately I just think that either the people that they are catering to don't have the same interests, or that they don't spend the money. I even noticed that in my industry, in educational publishing, when they passed what they call No Child Left Behind, or we called it in the industry No Child Left Untested. The for-profit companies, which at that time I worked for McGraw-Hill Education, they were licking their chops. They thought, oh great, we're going to make a ton of money on this.
Right.
And they didn't. And one of the reasons is, well, who are your customers? Schools. They don't have any fucking money.
Right.
They
don't have barely pay the teachers.
Yes. Yeah. So they can barely pay their teachers, but they are pretty smart.
Right.
So they're going to find creative ways to make their dollars stretch. They don't necessarily have to go out and buy your stuff, whatever it is you're selling. Yeah. So yeah, we are seeing people, and with virtual gambling and other things, yeah, we look at that and look down our nose at it. But there are other people willing to, I don't have to go to Las Vegas. I can just sit here on my ass at home.
Something that sort of just hit me while we were talking is that kind of stemming from something that Mike Rowe from Dirty Jobs. I've watched him on a couple of interviews, and he's talking about he has a foundation that pays scholarships for individuals that want to get into, for lack of a better term, blue-collar type of work, vocational, plumber, house builder, carpenter, so on and so forth. And he, in talking about this and talking about the difficulties he has in giving away his money, because, he puts caveats on it. You have to sign what he calls a sweat contract, meaning you got to dedicate yourself to doing this. You can't just take the money and say, hey, thanks. He talks about a knowledge base, and it's really interesting if you think about this as it applies to Vegas. the people have already talked about the decline of gambling and the beginnings of the knowledge base decreasing about gambling. How to gamble. I don't know how to gamble. I don't know how to place a sports bet. And then another conversation that was very important. Of course, we're going to welcome the Raiders relatively soon, but the NFL leaked out a little bit of information that their viewership is going down. Not significantly enough for them to say, "Oh shit," but they said, and it's because they're actually believing that people are becoming not so, amazed by football. They don't really understand football, and there's this knowledge base that is suddenly decreasing that's affecting all of us, but especially in Vegas because, nobody knows how to gamble anymore. Yeah. Nobody, it's like they're not thrilled with football because I have no connection to football. So I'm just wondering, what do you think Vegas should do to course correct, or should Vegas let it happen? Should Vegas let this knowledge base just go away and maybe, do you think she should alter herself for the coming generations, or should it battle and try to get back what Vegas used to be?
Well, I think it is trying to cater to the coming generations. We talked about this last week with all the esports. Yeah. That are coming, and that's. I mean, I talked to my son about that, and he's not interested in it, but he said, "Oh yeah, that's going to be really big." Mm-hmm. So I thought, I kind of thought it might probably be just another fad. When the next generation coming along, will be sick and tired of it. Mm-hmm. And is it because gambling and the games that we know, blackjack, poker, slot machines, even again, you don't need a slot machine. You put in a coin and you pull the handle. What's wrong with that? They've gotten so sophisticated now. They've gotten too many lights. Yeah. It's like, wait a minute, where do I put my money in this fucking thing? I'm trying to give you a quarter, and you don't want it, because I got to sign up for your club and all this stuff so you can track my play. No. I've only got a few dollars here. I'm gonna throw them away. Right. And that's when it was fun. When I could play dime slot machines, because I know I'm gonna lose this $20. But what I want to see is how long can I make this $20 last? And that was fun. Oh, yeah. Walked around. I still got them there, Jamey. There's one right there. Look at it on my desk. What is it? Hard Rock Cafe or a hotel. It's a cup.
Dollar coin cup.
It's a dollar coin cup. Yeah. I got a whole collection of those. Yeah. That I used to, and you can't find them anymore.
Okay. Now, what would you put yourself in? You are now going to be John Wynn. Yeah. If you're in charge now, with everything the same, the Raiders are coming. The millennials are here. Me Too is this specter above us. All the things that we've talked about on the podcast. What would you do to change things for the positive? What's the one thing where you would say, hey, you'd gather all your VPs together and say, all right, guys, this is it. This is the deal. What would you think that is?
Jeez. If I had that answer and I could sell it to him, I'm sure I could retire.
Well, what part of Vegas needs to change? I'll make it easier. What do you think? The gambling, the food, the entertainment, the sports? I mean, what is going to rescue Vegas and keep some of the mystique here?
I think a return of some of the lost leaders. Yeah. I think some of the, whatever that is, and someone will be bold enough to do that, right. And say, we're going to start giving stuff away, drinks or whatever. I mean, that was the whole thing with Las Vegas because the rules were different here, even in Nevada, right? I mean, we have legalized prostitution, but there's no drinking laws in the sense that they're always open. Mm-hmm. The bars are always open. They don't close like they do in California. They close between 2 and 6 a.m., whatever. Yeah. So we don't have those laws. And the same thing with gambling. Teach people how to gamble. They come here, have free class or something like that. You want a free drink? Hey, just sit in. You're playing with house money at first. Okay. To introduce them. And then maybe find out, hey, now I'm not so intimidated by or going to the sports book and they seeing the numbers up there. Well, they don't make any sense to a lot of people. Yeah. So they're they come here, they're looking, and then I think once they experience that thrill, and you know how it is of a horse race. Yeah. It's not have to be a sport that you follow. I think I'll choose that brown horse. Right. And put money on it and run. Right. Or bingo. Yeah. Or Keno. They always had that. I don't see that anymore. I even go locally into restaurants Often it used to be they always had Kino available in the hotel. So I think that's something I don't see so much.
I saw something on Twitter, and it was a comment that I think carried more weight than the individual realized. And it was the Twitter handle at just11. We've talked about them before. Makes some very astute comments and very funny, things that he says. But he made mention of the pools, and he kind of wishes, he absolutely wishes that they'd be pools again and not clubs.
Yeah.
And I think that he hit upon something that is a lot deeper than maybe he realized. That is the problem with Vegas. We've made it one big nightclub.
Yeah.
Everything is a club. You go to a pool, it's a club. You go to a lounge, it's a club. You go to this, the food has got to be with the club atmosphere. And strip clubs are a club, and it's just all this pounding, and I love electronic music. I love EDM. I love the Daisy Carnival, and when I say pounding music, I don't mean that. I mean it's just this driving din of sound, and you can't. There's too many people, and everything they're trying to make. It's almost like they're trying to cover up whatever their primary goal is. If we're going to have a steak, we're going to cover it up and make it a club atmosphere because maybe the steak's not as good, the entertainment. It's all Vegas has turned into one big nightclub.
Yeah.
And I think that
it's a club. So if you're not in the club, you feel excluded. And it is a club. Anybody can get into it. If you got a lot of money, basically.
Yeah.
What was really nice when I went to Psycho Las Vegas last weekend is that I remember thinking that this is a great venue. Las Vegas is a great town for this type of music festival because what you had was over a 4-day period, you had 60 bands. So you had as many as 20 a day. And there were 3 venues going, and sometimes they're going all at the same time. Very often, so you had the venue at the pool, you have the nightclub, which is Vinyl in the Hard Rock, and you had the Joint, which is the bigger, it holds 4,000 people.
Right.
So the pool, as we know, it's big. It's you can get 2,500 people out there easy. I think that's 2,500 is maximum. But yeah, they have the mosh pit. They have a slosh pit in the pool. So what's nice is that it's hard to find a venue in other places that have that type of setup.
Sure.
Where you can have 3 venues going at the same time and they're not competing with each other in terms of noise. It's not like I can hear, like you go to a movie theater sometimes, and if there's a quiet part in the movie, you can kind of hear what's going on next door. Right? Well, you don't have that here.
Yeah.
You see a lot of the people who have paid for this have come in for the whole 3 or 4 days. They're staying in the hotel. So they've got like 3,000-4,000 people for that. Or they're staying, they're staying locally and they're coming to the event. They're mingling even with the people who aren't here for the event. Because I remember I had some people asking me a question, what's this big line for? Yeah. I said, well, everybody wants to see Batushka. What? Who? I said, Batushka, they're a Polish black metal band. And they've only performed, this is their first tour of the U.S. They've been in New York, Chicago, and Las Vegas. That's it. Oh, and they're seeing some band called Bazooka, But nevertheless, there's this mingling going on. It was really fun.
Yeah.
And again, it's the pool and getting back to that where, you don't need to have all this, the idea of being exclusive.
Yeah, I agree. And hopefully, Vegas will take cues from this. The exclusivity does have its place here. I mean, there are certainly some places, but there are other places, but at the same time, what I never experienced, but I miss regardless, is that the level, the guest level. You made an effort when you were here.
Yeah.
You looked good and you had fun and you acted accordingly and people had just as much fun. You don't have to be wild.
Yeah.
And what happens here stays here, change the town forever. And that's fine. Because the town has to change. But this cacophony of sound and food and everything else, that doesn't translate to Vegas being good. yeah, it translates into Vegas being difficult. Vegas is a difficult place. As you said before, it's turned into every other tourist place in the world.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's what I think needs to change.
Yeah, and we lose our icons. I mean, people like when you thought of Las Vegas, there's certain people that come to mind: Elvis Presley,
Frank
Sinatra.
Yeah.
And we even, let's give him his due, Robin Leach, as it came in.
Yeah.
But now it's just like there really isn't anybody, and the clubs are like, oh, Kim Kardashian is going to be a Dow. It's just like go back to LA, bitch.
Yeah. Yeah, but I do. There's a mystique that I think if we can achieve it again, Vegas is going to have another heyday. We can welcome the Raiders. We've already welcomed the Vegas Knights, and I think if Vegas will, I'm confident she will shed the silly things that are happening, the trendy, nonsensical things that we have, and I think the pendulum will swing back to what we're speaking of. I really hope so, and I think there's a lot of supporters out there, big Vegas fans, especially with all the podcasts regarding Vegas. I think they would support that as well. Not the least of which are all the ridiculous charges that we're incurring right now, or not we, but all the people that are coming in. But I have one time for one question here. It came from Philip from WordPress. Good questions, actually. It was a two-parter, and he said, I heard there were wineries in Vegas. And so I'll answer that one quickly. There are not wineries in Vegas. The nearest one is in a town called Pahrump, the county of Nye, Nye. We're in Clark County. But Nye County has wineries
and brothels.
And brothels. It's wineries are intermixed actually with the brothels. I have been to one winery. I've been to most of the brothels, thanks to a friend of mine who was looking for shot glasses. But the wineries are actually quite impressive, and they produce a small batch of wines. Not being a drinker, I don't know how they are, but I've heard they were very good. But it's in Pahrump, Nevada, and I highly recommend going out there. They have PGA-sponsored golf all over the place in Pahrump. They even actually have a PGA course that is attached to and associated with one of the brothels, Sherry's. But the wineries are fantastic out there, and they're good enough to go out and have a tasting and spend the day and have fun. So I recommend that. Philip also mentioned, he said, I had heard they were trying to build a wonderful zoo. And yes, that is actually true. I don't know where it stands right now. We had a tragic zoo.
Is it still there? I've been there.
It is
couple
not there.
Oh god, that was it was kind of funny.
It was the Las Vegas Zoo. And it was a little tiny thing, and they did have animals, and for a while it was well cared for, but unfortunately it fell into disrepair, and they had all kind of financial troubles, and they luckily the zoo organizations that are throughout the country got involved and got the animals transferred out of there because they were being mistreated, unfortunately. But a while back there was a hint from the Irwin Foundation, Steve Irwin, that said they were working on financing and had the partnerships involved that we're going to have a large research sponsored zoo here in Las Vegas. When Philip asked this question, I looked it up, and unfortunately the information kind of dies out about 6 months ago. I can't find anything regarding that, but I'm going to keep working on that. I would love to see that. The Irwin Foundation does a great job. I can't remember the boy's name right now, but Bindi, of course, and Steve's wife. They run this foundation, still highly involved in everything zoological. So I thought that was a fantastic piece of news back in the day, but now, unfortunately, I have not heard anything, but I'll keep working on that.
Yeah, I remember going to the zoo in Las Vegas. It was kind of comical. They had a big display for a badger, and they said it came up. It was found. It was a rescue badger from one of the flash floods, but I couldn't see it. I was there. I spent like 10 minutes trying to see it, and I finally asked someone there, "Well, where's the badger?" It died. And I thought, well, why don't you put a sign on it then? I've been here wasting my time. But What was funny was right around the corner from the zoo was Siegfried and Roy's house. And I thought, well, geez, they have more animals in there than they had in the zoo.
Yeah.
More exotic animals.
The Las Vegas, if I remember correctly, you access it off of Rancho.
Yes.
Off of Rancho Drive.
Yes.
Which is not near. I mean, it's in a questionable part of town.
Yeah.
Very difficult to get to. Terrible location, and yes, very near to Siegfried and Roy.
Yeah.
Their of course area was one of the old school communities that was really cool. I mean, they had some fantastic looking houses. Wayne Newton had a house out there until he did the Shenandoah. But so I thought that was what a great question. No, I haven't even thought about that in several months. But I hope we do have a zoo. I think would be a wonderful plus to Vegas.
Yeah.
That would be something that would be a non-Vegas-y thing that would be welcomed. But I don't know. I don't know how people feel about zoos. I'd love to go to a zoo. I don't know how people, that sort of the transient nature of Vegas, that's a family thing.
Yeah, it is.
I don't know.
It is. And it's hot.
And it's hot.
And it's that fear to the animals.
Yeah, I mean, Phoenix Zoo, I've spent some quality time at Phoenix Zoo. Equally hot, but it is a spectacular zoo. I mean, but they have the funding, and they have the research capabilities. So I hope it comes. I don't know. But, let us know if you have any, comments, or I'd sure love to know everybody's thoughts about, what changes you would make to Vegas. John and I have definite opinions as to what has happened to Vegas, but we'd love to hear from you. You can contact us at the podbaydoorlv@gmail.com. Let us know what you think. What changes do you not like? What changes would you make if you were in charge? But I definitely think there's some good things on the horizon. Vegas always makes some interesting turns, in its life. And I think there's a really interesting turn coming. We'll see. I don't know if the Raiders will bring that turn.
And another thing that was announced today is that for the Circus is ending Fright Night.
No, yes, Fright Dome.
Fright Dome, sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, Fright Dome around Halloween, which is always really popular.
Yes.
And they just basically said, now we don't want to have it anymore for whatever reason. So it's been there for 15 years. Popular enough that maybe someone else will pick it up. I hope they do.
I hope so. Yeah. Our co-host, our lovely co-host Julia, she loves a good haunted house, or used to. Fright Dome, Circus, amazing. Talk about old school. Lasting, and that was as
long as it is, they were a perfect place for me. They got that hideous clown.
Yes, exactly. And they had Adventure Dome and everything else. Things are slowly changing in Vegas. I don't want to be so negative as to say it's an erosion, but things are just dropping off the map. Robin Leach is gone, Fright Dome's gone. I mean, Vegas is really, it's kind of like Tom Cruise in the Mission Impossible taking off the masks.
Yeah.
I think that's what Vegas is going to do. And
you better get here before it really changes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you can't go back in time.
I think so. Well, thanks everybody for joining in and downloading and subscribing. John and I both hope everybody finds their peace. And for John, this is Jamie, and we will see you next week. Thanks to everyone listening and watching. You can catch the Pod Bay Door on the Podbean app or any of your favorite podcast apps, including iTunes, Google Play, TuneIn, and Stitcher Radio. You can watch the show on our YouTube channel at the Pod Bay Door Podcast. Please download, like, and subscribe. Our social connectivity screen is coming up. Check in with us on Facebook, Twitter, and WordPress. The Pod Bay Door is closed and talent is out. Hey everybody, thank you very much for tuning into the show. We would love to hear your show suggestions and comments. If you are watching on our YouTube channel, please click to subscribe. You can also connect with us on Facebook using @PBD Podcast, on Twitter using @TPBD Podcast, and on WordPress at thepodbaydoor.wordpress.com.